settlers in the settler's life. Things I heard along the road.
At daybreak this morning, I wakes up with a start. I'd been thinking about my trip to the fort for the last hour or so, and then I guess I dozed off. I'm thinking this soft bed's hard to leave, but I'm gotta do it if I'm gonna make the round trip to the fort and back same day. I'm gotta get it going. So I gives the missus a sec to wake her up. She gives her eyes a rub, and I say, "Are you listening now?" I gives her special instructions how to feed the spotted calf, and while I pull on my homespun pants, and I says, I'd leave the mixture in a pail along the stove, and she could warm it up and give it to him, and let him take it slow and easy. I always gives my calves warm feed when they're little, and when they're big, I give it to 'em that way like. Give it to 'em slow and easy, but I told her, 'cause I don't want 'em getting on them skitters, else they might die on me. All she had to do after that was to throw some feed to the animals, and today she could let them drink at the water hole out back instead of drawing water up from the well with a bucket, I told her. That takes too long when she has other things to do, I told her. And I was trying to say these things as quiet like as I could, so as little Mary sleeping behind the curtain, not to wake her up like. I start to go down, and I see the head poking out. "You rascal, you," I says, "it's early for you to wake up. Jump back in and have some more sleep now," I says. But she only says to me, "Can I take a ride with you, Grandpa?" Now I got put in a tight corner this time, how to answer right. So he says to her, "There's no place for you to ride on a lot of wood. You'd fall off into the gutter along the rod," and I told her. But she only says, "I could sit on your knee, Grandpa." Now I could see right away this wasn't good enough, and I wasn't sure what they had up at the fort store, but anyhow I told her if she stayed home and helped her granny, I'd bring a dolly for her very own. Now with that, she gives me a kiss, and she goes back to bed. And I wondered, what if they're not got no dolly? What then? I'll have to take a chance on that happening, but. Now down in the kitchen, I started up a fire in the cook stove, and to save time, I put on the porridge to be cooking. And when the missus comes down, she can finish up while I'm feeding up at the barn. I calls up to her, "Where'd you put that length of strapping? I need it to tie on my hay bundle for the oxen to chew on when I stop along." "Oh," she says, "it's hanging by the door in the shed. Don't let it bite you on your way out," she says. She's always cleaning up and moving things. That's why I have to ask her all the time. Now after yesterday's blow, it's a fine warm day out, and a fine day for traveling in. But in the sun warms up a fella, he might get pretty drowsy and fall off in his load. Now that's what happened to Willie Mort, and besides being covered in mud and gutter, the wheel passed over his foot and smashed it up pretty bad. Anyhow, he's been limping around ever since, mind you. So I think I'd take along old John James with me for someone to talk to, so as if when one falls asleep, the other one can grab him back up like, you'll see. Now I take a deal of pride in my yoke of oxen. They're a matched pair out of the same cow. One of 'em's a little slower though, and if I prod him too much, he gets ornery and balky and he stops altogether. Then nothing'll do but leave him be to bide his time until he gets over the notion. Now on this trip, I'll have to be patient and leave him be, or else I'll not get to where I'm going until it's too late. Now during the winter, my oxen's hooves, they grow long, and last week I pared them down to size, and I taked off their shoes. They shouldn't get sore-footed on the wet road this trip. Later on, I'll have to put back on their shoes, ready for when it's time the mud gets hard like. Now, just to tease my neighbors and make them envy me my fine team of oxen, I polish up their horns and comb out their tails with a curracomb. Then they're all ready to hit the trail for the fort. And while they're eating, I make for the house and find breakfast all ready and steaming. The missus is a good one for getting things done, and she sure knows her stuff. Besides busting cooking this time, she heated up some pemmican. She says that's the last bale we're got, and she cut into it to make a lunch for me and all John Jams, if they'll go. We can chew on that and some hardtacks she scrounged up when we stop along to boil a kettle. That kind of grub will stick with a fella and keep him going for a long time. While we were supping, she told me if she said what she wanted over and over again, then I might remember what she wanted me to bring back from the fort. Now, indeed. This habit of hers worked, 'cause I could hear ringing in my ears calico, gingham, stitching cotton, and buttons, 2 colors, white and black, if they had them kind. And of the cloth stuff, bring 4 yards each kind. Now, teasing again, I says to her, better I should bring 1 more yard each kind, 'cause she's been putting on weight lately. Then next year she can fit her dresses better, for sure. Or, she says, don't poke fun at me. Watch out for yourself. Well, I says, I'd better go and hit up now and give my team a drink. You can shut the gate, and I won't have to come down off of my load of wood if you do that, I told her. I'm all ready now, and I says to the oxen, ha! And they start off slow and easy like, and they turn around and she's waving me. So I wave her back and settle down to a long ride, never mind. Starting off, there's a shortcut through the bush. It's rutted up pretty bad, although, thinks me, my team is fresh, so I'll try it. And come along John James's place, beyond side that off bluff, about a mile away. He won't be expecting me, and I might have to roust him out, and that'll take time. My trip through the bush had come off all right. My luck held out this time. But I found John James finishing up his chores. He says to me, "Bye, are you going up?" "Sure," I says. "That's what I'm here for, to get you to come along. Are you game to do that?" I says. "Sure," he says. "I'm got nothing special to do anyhow," he says. "So I might as well as take a ride. And I want to see what they're doing up at the fort anyhow," he says. "I hear there's some of these soldier fellas stopping there, just now, and they come there last fall and all dressed up in fine red coats. I wonder what they want," he says. "That I'd like to see is the dog teams coming in, unloading their furs," I says. "It's too late for that now, Butterlow. The snow's all gone away." Now, I was thinking I'd have to pick up my jag of hay coming back, so he says to John James, "Hurry up now, we're wasting time gabbing here," so he comes a-running. He doesn't have to wave nobody, 'cause his deceased wife lays over to the stone church along the river. She died and left him one stormy day, and she told him she'd see him later on if he gets away there. Now, making it along the trail he was his back to the road was better going, and we had no trouble. We both are sitting comfortable like on the top side of a lot of wood and ready for our trip we had to make. That's if John James doesn't get the yarning, and if old Dan doesn't take a turn to get balky, we should make the round trip by a little after sundown. He says he listens to everybody, and they talk. That's how he knows so much about what's happening up and down the country. We get off to a good start, and we're making good time, clipping off the mails, and John James begins talking. And nothing'll do but I listen. So I sit back and keep quiet.
He's telling me about his cattle and about a goat he's got. Seen this goat come up the stairs into the loft and eat the tugs off the harness hanging up. He got this harness from a fellow in town and was keeping it to use when he could get a horse. The tugs are gone now, but so he felt like killing the goat and eating it. Now, the smell of a goat is supposed to keep sickness away from the other animals, and he used to be a kind of a pest, so he said he'd leave him be this time. That never stopped him from saying a few cuss words, although every time he thought about his fine harness. Now, we talked some more about a few other things, and I noticed all Dan getting restless like. John then says, "It's no wonder he's acting up. Look up at the sun," he says to me. "It's bright up over. Already it's time for our lunch." So I'm hitched oxen and watering with the nearest water hole. And I always train them for a drink before they eat and after they eat. Gives them a better chance to take some more if they want it. Now after we boil a kettle and get it easy for a spell, it's good to stretch out after taking all the bumps from sitting on a lot of wood that day. Now after a little, it starts off again, and pretty soon the trail leads around the slough full of water and full of these rushes starting up. You know the kind what the Indians make doormats out of. John James says they call this slough McNichol's slough, because an old fella called that who used to stop here. He's dead now, but he says. "Oh," he says, "and how did he happen to die?" I says, "John James says a tree fell on him when he was out in the bush and cutting. And it was out in the cold, and the tree hold him down, and he falls stiff, all hunched up like that. And there happened to be two fellas passing, and they noticed him laying there. So they dragged him into his cabin and put on a big heap in the box stall, and sat Saul McNichol on a bench in front of the fire. Well, they both got drowsy from the heat, and they dozed off. And didn't the corpse slow out and fall off on the bench, bang, onto the floor? And Jossie Phillips, and I forget the other fellow's name, didn't he get such a start, their hair was sticking straight up, mind you. And when they're telling people about that, people would laugh. But they never found it funny. Now, after a few more bends in the trail, after we started off again, up on a knoll, there's a log barn. Look at it from one side, it looks long. Look at it from the other side, it looks short. John James says there's an old fella stays there they call Stampy, what has big bushy eyebrows. John James says he must have been trying to see past them like when he measured out the logs. The barn's so peeny he gets 10 head along one side and only 8 head along the other side. Mind ya. At the next bend in the trail, they could see the quarter head. It will not belong to come along the stone wall where there's a gate opening in, John James says. He's been there before, so he knows his way around. But he never seen these soldier fellas around he wanted to see hello. Now the gate was hopping, but two of the soldier fellas were standing stiff-like on each side. When they seen us coming across, they standed in the middle to block us from going inside. But they separated again after they seen we were supposed to go inside. Now inside the fort, there's people all around, and the soldiers are there all right enough, marching up and down, and some standing behind the cannon, ready to touch it off like, practicing up, I guess. My partner says, "Goodness sake, I can't make out what they're doing. I better ask around." "Well, you can do that after you help me unload my wood first," I told him. "Then you may change time. I told him. Now a fella comes up to us, and he says to stack the wood along a roundhouse in the southwest corner over there, he says. Now I see when we come first, there were some Indians camped outside the wall, and there's dogs laying all over, and smoke coming out the hall in the top of the teepee. They didn't seem to be in a hurry to get back to where they come from. They never had no canoe around. So maybe they was going to slip out on one of them York boats. I was talking to one fellow finishing up one of them York boats, making it inside the stone wall. Same as some of the words he used, but I couldn't make them out when he said that to me. This was his first winter in the country, he told me, and he talked like they talk in the Orkney Isles, where he come from. Inside there, I seen a couple old squaws squatting down, contented like, mocking away at their plate. I was sure it was this stuff the Indians call kinnikinnick, because I knowed that woolly smell, and I spotted it right away. I said, how to one of them, and she says to me, what tickles ye walks to Nushatun? White man with a beard, she said. Then she laughed. There was workmen working on a stone building. They had stones laying all around, same kind as I seen in the river before. All around there is the smell of furs and a kind of a mixture of animals and grease, all mixed up like. And I asked about that, and one of them showed me the fur house, stacked to the roof with fur, all baled up like and ready to send on the ocean, say. There's a thing in there what presses them together tight like, and as you turn a screw, it presses them flat that way. I never seen no governor around, but they call him. Somebody said he was away out in his canoe. But next I started in to buy the things I promised to bring for the missus. That's what I was thinking I'd better get first, and get the other things after. Well, some I got and some I didn't, because the boss brigade hadn't come in yet from bringing new stuff from York factory away north that way. And stuff here is getting pretty short. I got a dolly in my powder and shot, and I think the missus is going to be satisfied with what I got for her. But I couldn't get enough beads for Sarah's mother-in-law. The Indians had pretty well cleaned them out for stitching flowers on their moccasins and leggings. Now, it's about now I seen John James coming across the mess, and I told him, and hitching up now to take off. And he said he found out about the soldiers, and he wanted to tell me right there and then, Major. But I says to him, tell me later on our way home, I told him. Time's pressing, and we're not got much of it left. If we never get going soon, we'll be traveling in the dark. Oh, ho, he says. Then he shakes hands with everybody on our way out. We took a bit different trail this time to come along the marsh where my hay is. At places it towards the bank, and here we seen people out in boats looked like they was fishing. John James says them soldiers done a lot of walking and boat riding to get here from away east that way. They thought trouble was brewing in these parts, but it petered out, and they never used none of them, not much anyhow, as far as he could make out. John James says the soldiers are having a pretty good time waiting around. One of them told him, in a room where they keep the liquor, the barrels are stacked up to the floor under their bed, like. And some of the fellows had straws through a hole, like, into the barrel, and they could suck up the liquor, rum I guess it is. This is why they're feeling so good. Well, they must be feeling good, I says, to tell you a secret like that. Now, the oxen, they're rested up a little, and the load is lighter now, so we're making good time moving along. And it looks as if we'll make it back home before darkness, unless it starts to raining or something. There's a few clouds around, and it may take nothing to come spilling down. But I don't want no rain for a long time, me, for my part. And John James says, if it never rains no more, it'll be ever so much too soon to suit him. Right about here along the bank is where they have their picnic. In my younger days, I went to a few of them. The kids had their races hanging their legs together that way and running on 3 legs like, and trains jumping along in a sack till they fell over like. The women would run along with an egg and a spoon and try not to drop it. Lots of times none of them would get to the other end with their egg. Then one would hold a needle that way, and one would run up and try and poke a thread through the hole. After run back to the other end like, the first one to make it winged like. The men would pour grease on a little pig and chase him around and try and catch him. There was one fella, Johnny, had a way all of his own that he'd come up hanging onto the pig every time ahead of the others. And football games, that is something to watch. I mean one time watching one, the stage was about even. They done everything except chewing each other's ears off. There's one big pail up in the corner, and thinks me, anybody is lucky to come out of that alive. But at the end, now, here's Colin standing all alone like, holding on to the ball, chawing on a plug tobacco, and his mouth full of tobacco juice. Now, nobody daresn't come close in case he lets fly. So he spits it out, I bet you 10 feet or more, and he says to the nearest one to him, "You're not can do it, Judy." And he puts the toe of his beef juice to the ball, and the ball lands slap in the goal at the other end. They're all running down the field chasing it, but they're too late. May, I found that funny. And sitting straddle a pole, trying to knock each other off with a pillar. That was another one they had fun with. Now up ahead, there's 2 or 3 houses thrown up. The one who lives in between, I know him. They call him Long John, I guess because he's so tall he bumped his head in the doors around. Like, and he's some kind of a man with the Indians, the boss or something. And he wears this blue suit with fancy buttons on him, and a medal the Queen Mother gave him forever and ever, till the sun stops shining, people say. Now, John James says he knowed his father, and he had an accident once. Seems he told his boy to charge up his muzzleloader and have it ready to go out and get a chicken. There's on a wee cane what has a place in the middle for to put a ramrod in, and the boy stuck a charge in that. Well, the old man, he took off for a hunt, and he ups and fires at a bird. Bang! And didn't both barrels go off same time and kicked him over? And while he's laying there, didn't the gun kick him again, mind you? Now, he's pretty good at the gun, although, John James says. He was out shooting, he says, and he run sort of shot for loading up with. So he packs in a lot of these long, flat nails he had in his pocket, this to be ready like. He's walking along, and all at once he sees a brushwood crossing in front of him, like. So he ups and fires, bang, again. Now the bush is, at this stage is pretty thick. So after the smoke clears away, he looks around, and here's Mr. Wolf nailed to a tree, mind you. Oh, John James, I says. I'd have to swallow pretty hard to believe that, I told him. He says that's what he heard anyhow. Now pretty soon we'll be in the marsh where my head is, and I was thinking, maybe this is a good place to get my rats. I was around full of weakness, and they should be fat eating that stuff. And I should get a bunch in no time, that's if I can get away. I noticed a few signs, beavers and mink around here too. And a fellow gets onto the signs that little animals leave laying around, and he can tell pretty well what they're doing and how sick they are around like. And I said that to John James, and he says to me, now it's too bad little animals can't read signs. Because he remembers trapping one time, and he come along a sign with an arrow pointing to a trap that way, and it said on it, musquash, go this way. It was put there by this Stanley in a jock. He's always cutting up like this in lots of ways. Poor fellow, he got drowned in a lake away west that way, John James says. He heard somebody say that. Well, I'll soon be at my hay butt, and I was thinking maybe I'll not get it all on this trip. It's settled pretty bad, and it bulks up when you fork it loose. And I only got on a few poles to pile the hay on. And if I can't make it, I'll come out again with my hay rack and clean it up. Well, I forked on a bunch, and since I had John James along with me, I got him to tromp it down good. And it come as a surprise to me. I got it all on, mind you, to the last straw even. So I tied my Lord down tight with a rope so the bouncing won't take it off on you. And in case your Lord tips over, you can snatch onto the rope with your team and pull it back over. Now, John James says, you can stretch out and take it easy for a spell. Well, I'll not be able to take you up home today, I told him, and not get my team to move out of the yard once they get there. Oh, that's all right, never mind, he says. After I eat some grub, I'll walk up, he says. My animals will be looking for me anyhow. Like, well, if you don't think you can make it, the missus will spring up a curtain and you can bed down alongside our bed, I say. Now that's settled. We felt quiet. Listened to the crows calling. They make it such a clatter looking for a place to roost, I guess. Now the sun is getting down and I still had a piece to go. And by this time I was getting a mite chilly. For I got hot putting on my lord and I didn't feel comfortable like. Anyhow, away to the east, a bunch of wolves are making such a fuss howling over something. The air is full of noises. And an old sight-spoke is honking, sounded like his sound box was rusty. So I sits up when I prodded my team a little, taking a chance on all Dan getting bopped. By now I could see my house, so I thought I'd give him a try, and I prodded him again. Now I guess my officer knowed they was near and home because they speeded up a little, and pretty soon we're at the yard. John James jumps off and opened up the gate, and little Mary seen us and come running. John James, he stuck up his arms and take her up. Now right away she wanted to know what she brought for us. I told him, boss, to go inside, and I'd show him when I come in after I put my team away. Now when I come to the house, the missus said she'd been watching for us to arrive back because she's got a hot supper waiting. So we all sit in and we stuff ourselves. And all this time, the missus and little Mary is on to get at the party. This is why they're walking down their supper so fast. Now, I was kind of anxious, too, to see if I'd made any mistake on any of the stuff I'd brought. At last, the boss opened up everything, and it turned out the boss let out a holler, and it made me feel pretty proud to know I could do my shopping so good. Now, after that's over, he gets up, and John James said he'd roof it up back. Now, he felt better eating the wife's good cooking. So I told him goodbye, and I thanked him for helping me that way. Now, the missus had most of the chores done up, so I never had much to do after supper this time, except to stash away all the stuff I'd been brung home from the fort, like flour and rock and one stuff or another. Now, little Mary take her dolly to bed with her. It was only Rag, even one the squaw made, but we could hear her singing at the sleep, but it made me and the missus feel better to know she was happy that day. And after talking over my visit to the fort, we fell to making a few plans about what we had to do for the next few days. And I was thinking I'd like to go and dig snakeroot up, if it was only later in the summer. I heard up there that they had to ship a lot out, and the fella can make up pretty good at digging if he stuck with it. That Seneca is used for medicine of some kind, and lots of people use it. The missus says it'll wait for a spell after it warms up when the flowers come out. It's easy to spot like that. Let it grow first, she says. I'd like to try it again and help out. Well, she's pretty good at digging, I thought. So I says to her, you may eat as well as two, I told her, if you can get away. How about if we drive over to take little Mary back home tomorrow then? And I...
Yeah.
You can have a visit while I go and set out a few traps, I told her. It's quite a spell since she was over to Angelique's place, and she may have things to tell you, I say. That'll suit me to a T, she says. I'll not get another chance with the work coming on and all to get out to the house for a long time. Well, I says, if we're going to get an early start, it's no use hanging around downstairs, I says. So our boss washed up and went to bed together this time and said our prayers.